Bitcoin mining, Bitcoin wallet, blockchain, stablecoins, metanet, the evolution of money. Everybody is talking about Bitcoin today, but what exactly is it? Learn the basics from experts. Learn what Bitcoin is, how it works, and why it matters. Bitcoin 101, your ultimate guide to the fundamentals of blockchain.
Hello and welcome back to the show. Today we have Jad Wahab from the Bitcoin Association joining us. Jad, how are you doing today?
That was great. Great pronunciation. Thumbs up. I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm doing well. So I was hoping that you could start us off with a brief and/or quick introductory into how it is that you became involved in Bitcoin and what your journey was like up until this point.
Yeah. So just pretty briefly, like I got into Bitcoin. I grew up in Beirut, and I had a friend who was studying economics with Saifuddin, and he was telling them about Austrian economics and Bitcoin, and then that's how I found out about it. And then started asking a lot of these questions, like what's a good form of money? I was in Lebanon, so the lira was pegged to the dollar at a specific rate of $1 at 1,500. And I started asking all these questions that, why is this, what does this mean? That led me down the whole rabbit hole. And then I realized this is probably the most important thing anyone can be doing with their lives, like the new money. It's getting a lot clearer to people, especially now with all the inflation that's going on and everything that's happening, that at least something is wrong. Especially now I'm here in London, especially here in the West, where people have been lucky to not have to think about a lot of these questions, right? But this is a reality for so many people around the world. It's not nothing unique to Lebanon. So many other countries going through the same thing. And then I realized that I wanted to get fully involved in this. So I came to London, got a master's at UCL in applied cryptography. So Bitcoin, Ethereum, all the blockchain stuff there. And then afterwards, I worked at nChain for 3 years, and now I joined the Bitcoin Association at the beginning of this year, and have a couple of side projects as well.
As I understand it, you were working on Kinsey nChain. So that's pretty interesting to see like some of the projects that you've been involved in. And now that you're in the Bitcoin Association, you're if I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong here. I believe that you're involved in like the Light client. What other projects are you involved in currently, and what are you hoping to build out now and in the future?
So to answer your first question, Light client, yes. And what I'm mainly focused on, a big reason why I joined the Bitcoin Association, is I wanted to make sure that there is a stable foundation for everything that we want to build. Over the years, it's been really hectic with things changing with ETH, Ethereum, all these other BTC a lot. So just having that stable foundation and building a lot of that infrastructure to allow a lot of these things to work.
Yeah.
So that's what I've been focused on. I think we're getting pretty close to having like a solid foundation that I'm pretty satisfied with. And the nice thing about it is, once we lay down that foundation, we don't have to touch it anymore. And the big reason why I joined the BA is to make sure we've got that there. So our new mission and vision that we've been trying to, it's not really new, but it's what we've been expressing more recently, is that the mandate for the BA is to protect the protocol and then empower the creators in the space. And that's kind of different to previously, where people have seen the BA as more of kind of like a sales arm for Bitcoin companies and going on stage and presenting stuff. Which obviously it had its pros, but I think we need to be focusing on getting that plumbing there, right? And then everything else on top needs to be on in the front page. It shouldn't be like the BA or anyone there sort of preaching about Bitcoin or that kind of thing. Bitcoin is doesn't need people to preach about it or convince people about it. It's just a technology. At the end of the day, it's not like a religion or something. And if it needed people to convince the whole world to about it to work, then it was dead from the start, right? And the reality is it doesn't need the world to be convinced about it in order for it to be used, right? If it is actually a better form of technology, better money, and all that stuff, it will inevitably be used, right?
I recently spoke with Patrick Thompson, and I think we kind of came to the conclusion that, ask not what you can do for Bitcoin, but rather what Bitcoin can do for you. I think it's a much more productive way of looking at the space as a whole and trying to help bring in creators and people who are going to be inventive and all of these things. So I'm curious, as far as laying that foundational layer moving forward, how is that foundational layer that you're trying to create any different than, say, what we see on other chains like Ethereum or Solana or whatever? How are the foundations that you're trying to lay any different than the others right now?
Yeah, definitely, that's a great question. But let me just add one thing to your point, what you said
Sure.
about ask not what you can do for Bitcoin or that thing. I think it's very important for people to not think of it that way. You just basically profit seeking, right? And profit seeking in Bitcoin is a different thing from profit seeking in fiat. It's a different mentality as well. And trying to make money in that and profit seeking is not a bad thing. And it's actually, in order to make money, you need to be doing something valuable for people, right? And a lot of people in the space, I mentioned this when I was speaking to the woman of BSV girls as well, is that a lot of people have good intentions. They're doing something for free for the space to grow the ecosystem, but that's like actually harms instead of helps, because when you're doing things for free, you're pretty much getting rid of the whole point of money and prices, right? Prices are like an information signal, and if you're just doing things for free, you could be misallocating capital a lot, and things can be going in the wrong direction. There's no stability if you're doing things for free. If you're offering a service for free, then if someone is using that service and then they get a bad service, they can't complain because it's free. And there's so many issues. Things don't last long. So doing things for free is actually bad.
It's kind of creating a waste in the sense that we're misutilizing resources, because if somebody's creating a service and giving it away for free, then they're wasting not only time and effort and energy that they could be doing something else that would be far more beneficial to the economy in that sense. That's kind of how I'm seeing like a misallocation of potential resources. Is that kind of what you're saying? Am I getting it?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, sometimes you can be very well intentioned. A lot of the VC money as well. And I think it's not necessarily that like VC is good or bad, but I think because of the nature of the situation we're in right now, with so much easy money, it's everyone is just throwing money at random stuff just to be able to save money. You're kind of in this day and age, you're forced to become an investor just to be able to save your money, because if you leave your money in the bank, it's going to lose value, right? Because of all the inflation and everything that's going on right now. Places in Lebanon, people don't even trust the banks anymore. You can't even use credit cards anymore. So you need to find something to do with your money if you want to save. You can't. People have been forced to have such a high time preference. You can't plan for the future. How can you plan for the future if you can't save money? And in order to save money, you're forced to invest in random things. And because there's so much inflation and stuff, you need to invest in like very risky things to get a high return, because there's so much easy money in there. So that's what causes all of this, like my opinion, this whole situation that we're in with like these misaligned incentives.
isn't it kind of in the very nature of like when we think about VC funding, I think of an investor who is going to potentially invest in, say, 10 different companies with the expectation that maybe one of those 10 companies will actually come out profitable. But if that one company out of those 10s come out profitable, then at least they may be recouping some of the losses that they had incurred investing in 10 overall companies. I mean, so I kind of look at the VC funding in that way, but I also understand as well that the VC funding, if you're giving a company funding, there's less incentivization to ensure that there is a profitable outcome because you're not focused on profits. Instead, you're focused on creating a service with the expectation that hopefully later on profits will come. But in that sense too, perhaps it's more important that we focus on building businesses with the profit driven mindset so that we're profitable day one or week one versus year two.
Yeah, because you build on so much baggage and all of that stuff. It's very hard to pivot afterwards and all of that. And then yeah, it's I think it's just a completely different mindset when once you're thinking in this Bitcoin world. You know, all of the things that you just mentioned, they don't really make sense in this, you know, future world. And I think it makes more sense to think in a Bitcoin mindset and work backwards to today instead of working to today. It's I was watching a lot of videos and stuff from the early days of the internet, and most people couldn't really, because they weren't thinking on it in an internet like mindset. They couldn't understand how all of this stuff made sense. They were asking questions like, why would my company need a website? If anyone needs me, they'll just call me on my phone or whatever.
That's a really
They
good
couldn't,
point.
it
Yeah.
didn't make sense to them, right?
Well, the way we market things to individuals right now versus what we would try if we tried to go and market like you said, the internet to the people in the 80s, they'd be like, well, why do I need this?
Yeah.
What the heck is this? But the same is true in Bitcoin too. Like what we try to market to people now is not what we're going to be marketing to people later because people's wants, needs change over time as the market and economy grows and evolves. Sorry, I didn't mean to
Yeah,
cut you
and
off.
no, definitely. It's great. And it's I was talking about this to my team and a few others recently, mentioning a lot recently, which is General Magic. This company, there's a documentary about it, which is really interesting. I think everyone should watch it. But it talks about this company called General Magic, which was like a spinoff, not spinoff, but it came out of Apple in the early days, and then they wanted to build the first mobile phones and stuff, and they had all the best partnerships, IBM, Sony, whatever you think of. They had all the smartest people in the world working on this, and they were working like overworked 24/7 in this office. They were there, and it takes you through their journey and what happened. And then all of these individuals afterwards, you know, they went off to create huge businesses, like the CEO of PayPal, big people in Google, Apple, that kind of thing. And then it's I think my key takeaway from that is ultimately the company failed, right? And then what happened afterwards, they were just way ahead of the game. All of their drawings, you can see they drew out so many things that looked like the iPhone and all that stuff. They were just way ahead. And then afterwards, obviously, you can see the success of the iPod and the iPhone. And then my key takeaway from that was that once the ideas, the new technology and stuff, it's out there and it's in the ether, I think it's inevitable before it gets, you know, it materializes. I think once it's out there, it's inevitable. It's new technology. The unknowns are just how quickly we're going to get there, right? So it's like the technology. Once you can see it, once it's out there, it's like a destination, and it's like a wave that's going, you know, towards it. And then the key thing that you need to you know, we'd like to do is ride that wave, right? Either you're going to be too early or you're going to be too late, but you need to understand where the current technology meets the customer demands,
Yeah.
consumer demands, and what the technology can do today, because the technology obviously is not it's not where we want it to be, right? So you need to focus on these things, and then in order to ride the wave, and we want to obviously ride the wave during our lifetimes, but it's like I don't think I don't have this idea that if we don't do anything that it's things are going to die out. I think once the ideas are out there, inevitably it's going to happen one way or another, right? But yeah, one way or another, it would be nice to ride the wave, right? So it's kind of the same thing that I see with the Bitcoin space.
Yeah, a lot of things that you said there make sense. I'm just curious if there's like this particular mindset that we have in the BSV community right now that's holding us back from pursuing certain things that like consumers are demanding, like from other chains. So, for example, in 2017, Ethereum did the CryptoKitties NFT type stuff, and then all of a sudden, in the last bull market, NFTs blew up. But there was this overall kind of mindset in the BSV community where it's like, oh, those are, that's kind of evil. We don't know much about these things. It's not very good. So maybe we shouldn't do it. And then all of a sudden, we finally started putting out NFTs because our technology is capable of it, and it's been capable of it. But we didn't start getting it until the end of last year. And so for us, it was kind of like, well, we finally met consumer demand, but at a point which it was a little bit too late. And so I'm curious what your thoughts are of how, moving forward, what is the Bitcoin Association looking to do to try to meet consumer demands on time, if not ahead of time, versus a day late and a dollar short?
So in terms of the Bitcoin Association is a nonprofit organization. So obviously it has its own mandates and its own mission and vision,
right.
But these things, everything needs to be commercialized, and that's part of my strategy, is to push everything that's being subsidized into being things that are commercialized, because that's how things are going to last, and that's how things are robust. Things don't you can't rely on things being subsidized forever. Even the block subsidy is going to end. Things won't last, right? So back to your earlier point about some BSV culture calling other things scams and that kind of thing. Obviously, there are scams, right? But I don't think it's a healthy culture. Because I have a lot of friends in the rest of the crypto industry, and a lot of them are very clever people. But for a lot of their projects, they're just starting with wrong assumptions. Like a lot of people that I know working on things like the Lightning Network or Layer 2 stuff, very clever people, and they have very clever solutions. But it's like, there's no reason to go down that path, because Bitcoin scales. Like, it scales so well that it's ridiculous. Even on BTC, like their whole narrative around like digital gold and all that stuff is it can easily be consumed within the BSV narrative, in a better way, because they had to at some point pivot their whole narrative from being this better form of money to just being a settlement layer that competes with Swift or whatever, or gold. And then all of these other stuff have to be done on a second layer, like Lightning Network or whatever. And if you think about basically gold, and you look at history, the reason why gold failed is because it had all these second layers that basically got gold removed. It's going down the same path, and there's no reason to go down that path, because Bitcoin scales. So there's a lot of things we can learn from the rest of the crypto industry, because there's a lot of smart people there, and there is a lot of things that we can take and use to our advantage, because they are building things that are not going to be very sustainable and scale in the future. So I spent quite a lot of time on like Ethereum and Hyperledger and stuff when I was still figuring stuff out. And it's obviously it's a lot easier to do things on Ethereum, but you hit ceilings. At the end of the day, and everyone runs into these things. You hit these ceilings. You do things obviously using a account-based system versus a UTXO based system is way easier, but then you just have huge ceilings, bottlenecks, and then if you want to have something that works afterwards, you need to pivot afterwards. Even all of the layer 2 stuff with Lightning Network, all the research I was doing at university, everyone was doing it on Ethereum. And then if things worked on Ethereum with the ZK rollout, whatever, then they would, go back to BTC. So it's like, yeah.
Well, I guess that says something about the other crypto, the cryptocurrency market in general, is that they're creating ways that make it much easier for a developer to come in and say, hey, this is how you do it. And so I guess perhaps there's a way in BSV that we're missing out on to basically say, hey, here's the information that you need as a developer in order to make these things happen in a much more effective and simpler way, versus banging your head against these ceiling limits on another chain like Ethereum later on. It's not that you can't do it on Ethereum. It's that once you get to a certain point, you're going to reach that ceiling, and then you're going to realize that all the work that you've done has kind of been for naught at this point, when you could have just been doing it on BSV, because there is no ceiling and the sky's the limit.
Sure, but what do you get, Brittany, out of convincing these people? It's like a thankless thing, right? You keep convincing people, oh, pivot your company to BSV, is going to be better for you in the long term. But what do you get out of it personally?
That's true. That's true.
And that you're going to be immediately faced with like criticism and pushback. No, you don't know what you're talking about. You're just a scammer on BSV. And so what do you get out of it?
Well, I'm not saying necessarily that you need to convince somebody. What I'm saying is what you were talking about sounded as though you that it was easier for developers to find this information on how to do things on other chains versus on BSV.
It is.
Well, that says something about us, right? Like maybe we should be making things easier to allow builders that incentivization. And it sounds kind of like that's what you guys are trying to do right now.
Yeah, we are, but it's not like, let me give you like an analogy. Bitcoin is just like the technology, right? It's like if you look at Uber, what was the technology that enabled Uber? It was the location services on your mobile location services, right?
Okay.
On your phone. Just go with me on the analogy, right? It's like you figured out this new technology, this location services that can, create all these amazing tools like Google Maps, Uber, whatever. Did you have people that were going out trying to convince, oh, you could use these location services, this technology to do these things? It's like me going to like Avis or these taxi companies and then telling them, you can use this amazing technology. Why are you using it? It's so good. I'm going to build you all of these developer tools so you could build it. Or, I'd look like a huge snake old salesman, like, because I'm going to be like, what is this guy even doing here? Or I could just go and build Uber myself, right? Which is like the logic. Then, that's more logical, right?
Yeah, I suppose you're dead on the money there. Okay, well, be that as it may, we're trying to move forward in Bitcoin.
Yeah.
We're trying to push this. What's a good way, in your opinion, to increase the growth and adoption within the space? And what are you working on right now to make that happen?
I think anyone who takes on the responsibility of growing adoption or building a business that requires a larger adoption, I think is taking on a huge risk. So in the BSV economy, you've got a certain amount of people in this economy, right? It's a limited size. Let's call that size like X. And we were discussing a lot of this stuff in Cambrian as well. It's like, so you've got this like BSV economy, right, with this many people. Let's say, I don't know, 500,000 people. So if you are trying to build a business that is going to be profitable with more people than the ceiling, then you're not going to be able to do it, because then you're going to have to onboard these users. Then you're going to have to be building all of these bridges and stuff to onboard these users to the BSV economy. Instead of building a business that's profitable off people in the existing economy with less than this 500,000 amount. But if you're taking on a lot of investment or whatever, and you're trying to you're going to become profitable once you go above that amount, then you're going to be taking on a lot of risk on yourself because you need to push that ceiling up. But if you're focused on building smaller businesses that are already profitable without the ceiling getting raised, then you should be fine, and then that ceiling will get raised automatically once that things get more saturated. It will get raised, and then you could create businesses that are bigger. But if you're taking on the risk yourself, it's a huge responsibility, right? And obviously the BSV, like the BA, has a mandate to support the ecosystem and stuff, but it's not like a profit making operation, obviously. So it's like a non-profit. There's a lot of risks there, huge responsibility, and the main things we could do are just focus on getting more liquidity. So this is a big thing which you mentioned, which is a light client project. And the main thing we wanted to do is get a lot more liquidity, and the biggest blocker to a lot of that is obviously there's a lot of reputational things, which we've focused a lot on rebuilding a lot of reputation there, and it's it was a lot easier than I thought. I thought it'd be extremely hard. I mean, I'm not saying it's not hard. It's obviously hard, but it's a lot easier once you just have a normal conversation with someone. A lot of these people are new in like new exchanges, that kind of thing. You just have a regular conversation. It's very difficult for someone in the middle of a conversation with straight face to tell you we're not going to let it be because it's a scam, and you're talking to them, you're not asking them for money, and then they've got like shit coins like Shiba Inu or whatever other shit coin was on their exchange. You can't say that with a straight face and be like, oh, we're not listening to BSB because it's a scam. It's like, where is the scam? There was no pre-mine, right? We're not asking for money. It's got all of this these businesses on it. It works well. It works. It's like, where is the scam, right? So it's once you put it that way, it just makes a lot more sense. But the key thing was that all of these exchanges and stuff, they're using the wallet in the Bitcoin node, in Bitcoin D. And obviously that's not going to work if you've got large blocks. Right. So if you're running like a miner, you're spending so much money on huge ASIC machines, like hundreds of millions of dollars. So running this node was going to cost you a few $1,000 like a month, is less than a rounding error, is nothing. So it's like less than peanuts. And then if you're running an exchange, obviously it's going to make a difference. So a lot of the exchanges we've been speaking to, they're like, it's not worth the liquidity is low, so it's not worth spending a few $1,000s to run a node. And then which makes sense from a business standpoint, but the key thing is that you don't need to run a node to use Bitcoin. It's right there in the white paper. You don't need to run a full network node to use the network. You could use a light client, and that's the key thing we've been working on.
So they can just store like the block headers, right?
Pretty much, yeah, just the block headers, and then the rest of the wallet with the transactions and all of that stuff. And then there's a few things that need to be done just to facilitate this direct communications in order for the sender and receiver to connect to each other, to send the payment directly to the recipient instead of broadcasting it to the network and then having them find it somehow. Obviously, there are services that you could pay to find those transactions for you on the blockchain and then send them to you. But the key thing is that you should pay for those services, because all the things that happened previously were free and they're not sustainable. Clearly, no. And so this is the ongoing project that we're working on. The light client, we kind of rebranded SPV nodes. So previously people used to call these wallets like SPV wallets or SPV nodes, but we just thought light clients just sounded a lot more user friendly. We went through a couple of UX stuff and did a couple of surveys just to get like a feel of how people are perceiving a lot of these things, because naming really matters. Just if you name something in the wrong way, people will immediately misunderstand it. Things like merchant API. I remember we gave a presentation about merchant API a few years back, and then barely anyone attended. They're like, "Oh, I'm not a merchant. Why would I? It's not relevant to me, you know." But it was understandable. And Mappy, it's pretty much a reliable interface into the miners. Just if you want to send transactions to the miners, either you have to send it over the P2P protocol, or you just have a reliable API that you send directly to the miners. It's a very simple API, and that's all Mappy is. Like, it's just an interface into the miners, and they could provide whatever services they want. There's no reason why different miners can't have different interfaces, right? So yeah,
It creates
mining's
a
been a big thing.
capitalistic society within the miner network, whereas if you're not getting something from one miner, you could go to another miner and kind of work out what they can do for you. So
Yeah,
like yeah.
mining is the most competitive business, like a fully zero-sum game. It's not like Ethereum where you've got uncle blocks where it's like a participation trophy, you know. It's like you tried mining, but you didn't get the blocks, so you just get this uncle, you know, reward. But in Bitcoin, there's no such thing. So if your block gets orphaned, you get zero, get nothing.
Well, that in and of itself too could be like a challenge for the miners as well, because what if I went to Gorilla Pool and I said, "Hey,
Mm-hmm.
I would like, is there any way that you could increase the amount of data that I can submit to the chain?" Like I think like when I tried to put a audio podcast on as an NFT, there was a limit to how much data that you could put. I think it was like um 10 megabytes or something like that. So I could go to Gorilla Pool and I could say, "Hey, can you increase that a little bit for me?" And in exchange, I guess I pay you more in fees or whatever. But if they're connecting and they're providing that service, don't they have a higher risk of being orphaned as they can?
100%. That's part of our efforts at the BA, taking things from more of a subsidized approach to a commercialized approach. It's the miners need to be aware of the risks involved, right? So obviously removing the previously in like BTC, BCH days, things they set like software artificial limits that miners didn't push the limits and break things. That was the approach, but obviously that's never gonna be sustainable for the long term. Miners need to take a more proactive approach. They can't just be passive. Previously, miners would just buy ASIC machines, run this node, and then, you know, spend their time on the beach. That's all it took to mine, right? You know, you would be maintaining these the machines, the ASIC machines and stuff, and mining was nothing. And this is obviously not going to be the case in the future. Miners need to be more proactive. They're like transaction processors. So the right now you've got the hashing part, which is taking up the majority of the costs. So you're spending hundreds of millions of dollars on these hashing ASICs, and you're spending nothing on the node. But the node, with things like breaking the node out with Teranode and all that stuff, you can break out things like verifying signatures, and then verifying signatures could have their own ASICs, and all that stuff is going to be, once you have large transaction volume, then all of that stuff is going to be broken out, and you're going to have to take a more active role, and you need to have proper SREs, DevOps, all of that stuff to make sure your service is reliable 24/7. All companies do this, like big companies like Twitter, Google, whatever. They have all of these resources, and the miners, Bitcoin miners, are going to be the center of the network. So they're going to have to be the most reliable system. And that's what makes Bitcoin so robust, is that you've got this center of the Mandela network, where it's so robust, where things can come and go. Miners can come and go without affecting the reliability of the network. Right, the difficulty readjusts. That's the whole point of the way Bitcoin was structured. It's extremely robust. It's the most robust and scalable system we've ever created. And this is not the mainstream narrative. The mainstream narrative is that Bitcoin and blockchain is that it's very fragile. It's
You need to run a full
unscalable.
node. You need to verify
Yeah.
transactions yourself.
Yeah, I mean, people will figure it out. We've done our due diligence. We spent enough time. If they spend as much time looking into it as us, I think they've come to the same conclusions. I think there are, given that, there are some people that are still going to go in that direction because they aren't trying to build the same thing that we're doing. They don't have the same goal. There are some people that are, they want a anonymous, uncensorable money, and for them that's more important than having this sound money that's a global monetary and data system. And their option to work on if they want to spend the rest of their life doing. I don't think it's going to be that successful. I mean, you can see it. They keep changing things all the time. They keep
There's
trying
no
to change
culpability.
BTC and Monero and whatever to make it more private and anonymous and all that stuff. And I actually in my university, I wrote in my master's program, I wrote a paper around the privacy in blockchain systems, and I thought, the same narrative as them. I thought that Bitcoin didn't have enough privacy and it needs to be more anonymous. And I was working on Zcash stuff, and my supervisor, Professor Jens Groth, I was going through a lot of the zero knowledge proof stuff with him, and so I wrote this paper, and then I found Craig's articles and his presentations talking about the difference between anonymity and pseudonymity, and it just made so much more sense. And it was like extremely practical, because if you've got this tiny pool, with privacy, you need scalability. If you've got this tiny pool of like 3 people using Zcash or whatever privacy coin, regardless, you can use the best best privacy enhancing technologies in the world. If there's only 3 people, you could easily de-anonymize that with a success rate of 33%, because you just choose one person out of random, and it's going to be one. It's going to be that person, right? If no one's using it, it's very easy to de-anonymize. The only way you can get proper privacy is at scale, and there is a big difference between having pseudonymity and anonymity. And with pseudonymity, you could be completely private, but you still leave an evidence trail if things were to go wrong. Because if you study philosophy and a lot of these things, you realize that these things were thought about and philosophized in the past, and they lead to a lot of issues. To have something fully anonymous, and at the same time, most people don't want to use it. Like, practically, you've seen that happen.
Right.
It's not many people use these privacy coins. They've been delisted from exchanges. So it's so if you don't have that much volume, you're probably more private using any even Ethereum is probably more private, even though everything's on your account-based model than some of these coins. So I think they just have the people going in that direction have a huge huge obstacle going that direction. If they want to, it's everyone is free to live their life the way they want to, but I think what we're doing is a lot more interesting.
Definitely. And I know, going back real quick at the beginning of all of that, that last bit of our conversation, you had mentioned that the BA was looking to help increase liquidity in BSV.
Mm-hmm.
And you're doing that by utilizing the light client. But I'm curious, is that by getting more exchanges to list BSV in the future, so that we
Yeah.
can bring in liquidity and help? Are we focusing a little bit more on pumping the price or just creating liquidity?
Yeah, so those two are very related, those two things. I don't think it's right to say the price doesn't matter. Price obviously matters. And we've started this whole project around exchange listing, exchange outreach. So we're building relationships with a lot of these exchanges, and we are working with them to get them to. The goal is to replace them running the Bitcoin D wallet with this light client wallet, which once we explain to them from a business standpoint, it's gonna take your costs for
Way
running
down.
BSV, yeah, way down from like a few $1,000s a month to literally peanuts. They're like, obviously, why wouldn't we list this coin? It's gonna cost us nothing, and they've been listing so many new coins like whatever Algorand, Solana. They need to run a lot of infrastructure to support these coins, and they've been supporting so many coins and that kind of thing. They're going in the direction of like this multi-chain universe, which a lot of exchanges. I don't think it's the most wise decision, but a lot of people are doing this, and so for them, it's kind of a no-brainer once we could deliver that to them.
I'm curious as to what your
Yeah.
thoughts are, what it is truly you see like Bitcoin at scale, like solving, aside
Yeah.
from like, I feel like Bitcoin at scale really sees Craig's vision through all the way, but I'm curious what your thoughts are on it.
Yeah, I think about this a lot, Craig's vision and like the future Bitcoin vision, and it's like a crazy world. Did a huge shift in my life to start working on Bitcoin, because I think it's the most important thing. It's obvious that the monetary system we're living in right now, everyone agrees, whatever your political stance is, everyone agrees there's something wrong, right? And things are, in a very weird state right now. So what else would you do? This is like, if you want to just plan for the future, if you want to just have any planning for any future saving, doing anything with your money, it's like, how could you be doing something that doesn't even relate to this stuff, if you actually want to have this long-term view and like a low time preference. For me, it just doesn't make sense to be doing anything else. I think everything else is kind of is like a layer above, the way I see it, right? And so some people, if they grow up in the first world countries, for them, they have the luxury to not think about some of these things, so they have this luxury of staying in kind of ignorance. But I don't see how you could think this is not like something extremely important, regardless your views. And I just think it's the future of what we're working on right now. And like, you can see it when I just went back home to Lebanon a couple months ago. There are some restaurants, they don't even have prices on the menu because the lira is more volatile. They had like an app which tracked the price of the lira
Oh,
everywhere.
wow.
Yeah, it was like more volatile than Bitcoin. And then we were just in Costa Rica as well. Their colones or whatever also is having so many issues. The whole country is dollarized. So many countries around the world which just their solution is to dollarize because the dollar is more stable. But obviously, that's not a long-term solution, because look what's happening. Like, the US is like exporting their inflation. There's so much going on right now. You've got the whole BRICS situation, and then you've got the US, everything that's going on around the world politically. There's so much going on. How could you ignore everything that's going on right now? And it's the I don't know what else to
Yeah,
say.
it's like meeting people's basic needs. I think I was actually talking about this with a very controversial figure in the space recently, Jack Lew. But he was saying
Yeah.
that once you meet people's basic needs, then they're able to pursue their passions because their basic needs
Mm.
are being met. And if they're able to pursue their passions, then they're able to add greater value to, like, say, the Bitcoin network, So it's a
Yeah.
curious thing that we were just talking about, like liquidity and price, because if we were able to pump the price of BSV and bring in liquidity, then we're going to bring in new individuals with different mindsets, perhaps somebody who is experiencing difficulties in their home countries, like what you're saying, that Bitcoin could help provide a solution for. But unfortunately, the way it is right now, proverbially speaking, is their basic needs are being met, so they're not being able to focus on the things that could actually help grow their own economies, and what Bitcoin could do to help them facilitate that.
Yeah, we spoke about this with Jack in Costa Rica as well a lot. But what I was talking about was more of a macro level, like a lot of stuff that people like Ray Dalio are speaking about with the whole changing global order. But to what you're talking about was just like the
I see.
hierarchy of needs.
Right.
I forgot the name of the person who invented it. But anyways, what I understood when discussing with Jack, my perception of things is that a lot of people that are working in the Bitcoin space and stuff, they have a lot of their basic needs met because they live in these countries, and now they've reached like they live in countries where they're fortunate or to have a lot of these needs met, and
Right.
then so they're on the highest order, and they want to have like fulfillment in their
Right.
life, and that is not, just having that on its own, and then they bring that higher, that level into BSV or into Bitcoin, and then that on its own is not going to be enough. You need to start from the bottom in this new economy with Bitcoin. You need to be able to build like profitable businesses. You need to start with having your needs met, and working your way up to the top. So you can't just come in and try to build something, with the best intentions. You want to make the world better or whatever, and then no one's willing to pay for it. Doesn't matter what your intentions are.
Which brings us back to people must be profit driven in the first place. It's
Yeah,
like
yeah,
it's a whole thing. And
exactly. So
yeah,
if you're at the bottom level in your hierarchy, you wouldn't be thinking about these things. You would just be trying to make a profit to go up the hierarchy, right?
absolutely. It's a lot to think about. And I've enjoyed our discussion today thoroughly. But I know we're walking up here to the hour mark. So I'm curious if you have any final thoughts, or if there was anything that you really hope people take away from this video, and what that might be.
I think one key thing is the new style that we have at the Bitcoin Association. I think with Patrick and Martin and all the changes we've been making, I think we wanted to shine a light on that. We've been making a bunch of changes to hopefully steer things in a more sustainable direction, and getting a lot of things that were subsidized to becoming more commercialized, as same vein that we were speaking in with, like just more profit seeking, more focusing on these more important things to be able to build a robust economy. I think one thing I see a lot in the space is it's very hard for people to separate their emotion from their perception of things.
That's a good
And
point.
yeah, this is what drives a lot of people away from Craig, because they see Bitcoin as like this religion, and you can see it with that witness in the Hodl Knot case, and he was like, "There's no way Craig could be Satoshi, because I was reading Satoshi's writings and they were beautiful, and Craig's writings are not." It's like they have this image in their brain of the Bitcoin as like this religion, and Satoshi as this religious figure that's perfect, and
He's Bitcoin Jesus.
yeah, and and Craig just doesn't fit in this mystical vision that they have. So there's nothing that Craig could do that would convince them or whatever. So it doesn't even like there's nothing you could do that's going to change their minds. And the nice thing about it is you don't need to change their minds, because um Bitcoin doesn't need to convince the world. And it's like just separating that emotion that clouds your vision from being able to see all of these things that Craig's been speaking about. A lot of the stuff that you can learn so much from what he says. Craig has so much to offer, and if you're just ignoring Craig, then you're doing so at your own harm, because a lot of stuff that he said, obviously they take years and in many cases to actually materialize, but a lot of stuff actually it happens, and it's true. And like most of the stuff that I haven't learned more about Bitcoin from anyone than Craig. All the stuff that he as Craig, right, not as Satoshi. And it's like if people were thinking in more of a profit seeking mindset, then it wouldn't matter if you like or dislike Craig, because those are just emotions. But like the reality, the stuff that he's saying, Bitcoin scales, all of these things, Bitcoin's a small world network. Um, they're true. And if you were thinking with this mindset, you would take those and use those to to your own advantage, right? Doesn't matter whether you like Craig or you don't like Craig, or this whole thing. And that's the nice thing about Bitcoin. We don't have to convince everyone. Like, imagine this dystopia where we convince the entire world of this technology, whether it's BSV or in this case it's pretty much Ethereum. We convince the whole world that this technology can do all these things, world computer, it's whatever, and then it actually can't. What a that's a terrible reality to live in, right? So it's convincing people of this thing is separate from it actually materializing. And then the main difference is that there is cost attached to using this system. So through its commodity tokens, which are Bitcoin, and that's the main difference between the technology of Bitcoin versus the analogy I gave you with the location services and Uber and stuff. So if the location services, in order to use location services, there was a commodity token attached to using that technology, then yeah, you would probably see a bunch of people going out to Avis and the taxi companies and stuff saying, oh, you should use this technology, it's amazing, it'll do this for you. And that's what happens in space. That's why so many people took this technology and created a shitcoin, altcoin of it, pre-mined a lot of it, and then just started selling it to people just so that they could exit, and then without like an unregistered security and rug pulling. And that's not to say that a lot of these tokens are useless at all. I'm not saying that at all. I think there's a lot of value for tokenizing everything in the world. And just because, so there is this culture in BSV of saying, oh, these are unregistered securities, so
yes,
you don't do anything with them. I don't think that's wise. Even even just from a practical standpoint, even though it is an unregistered security and it is illegal, look at things like EOS. They raised $4 billion over a span of 1 year with nothing. All they had was an ERC20 token. And at the end of the day, they just got like a slap on the wrist for like $10 million or $100 million, or I forgot what the number was, which was like peanuts. And then they've already spent the whole thing, and now they're in lawsuits about where they spent it. They built an exchange or whatever happened.
Well, it's just like most countries don't focus on stunting innovation and putting, like, you don't want to stunt innovation by waiting for regulation. Like, I think the only country, one of the only countries in the world that does that is like China, where you have to have the regulation first before you can innovate. And it's like,
I mean, if you're not harming anyone, then you shouldn't wait for the regulations yourself, because you're not. And a lot of laws, they exist today that would obviously be applicable on Bitcoin. So if you're doing something, let's take the scenario, if all of these ICOs and whatever NFTs or anything actually delivered, do you think anyone would have a problem with any of them? The main problem is they didn't deliver, and then they scammed and all these things. So the problem is not using the technology, it's the way the technology was used. And if you could use it the right ways, then you shouldn't be scared of regulation or whatever, in my opinion. Obviously, it's not financial advice or anything, but
right. But the point being is, perhaps we shouldn't be afraid of these things by just immediately calling them evil or inherently bad, and we don't need to utilize these things because they could be XYZ, because in Bitcoin, if we utilize it the correct way, then we're still following, the procedures, guidelines, and regulatory framework that is currently available to us. As long as it's not hurting anybody, then why not use it in the BSV space? Because we could be helping to further along the economy. Whereas I feel like,
I think we a lot of the culture in the space is damaging when it could be the complete opposite. We could just consume a lot of these narratives. Like, BSV is probably the best blockchain for NFTs, like without a doubt, for as technology. Like, and I think everything, if you start thinking about Bitcoin in the future, like a Bitcoinized world, I think everything will be tokenized. Even Craig spoken about this in his very early Dalco series. Right, this is the world we want to live in. But doesn't mean that this the way people are using it, that's the only way to use it. Or
Well, I think
and
there's
and
a
there,
lot
there
of, go ahead, go ahead.
yeah, so there is a lot of ways to do great things, and I think there's a lot of projects in the crypto space that are actually trying to do something useful, but they just don't have the right tools, and then there's a lot of times they have to pivot afterwards, and because technology doesn't really allow them to do things properly. And just think in this mindset that if you're thinking in a Bitcoin mindset, this is the like the most valuable money in space. This is like this is the new money. This is the future money. These are all these amazing things we could do with this new technology. It's think in that mindset, in that future, and work backwards to see what you can build today that will be profitable today, and just try to work backwards and try not instead of working forwards, right, from where you are today and trying to apply this technology just in an easier way for some people, by just slapping blockchain on the side. I don't think that's, it's been shown that it's not really the most successful strategy from the days of like R3, Corda, and all of that stuff.
So don't build on blockchain just because you like blockchain and you love Bitcoin. Like, think from a profit-driven mindset about what is actually a good idea, what has consumer demand, and what's going to bring you a profit, not just in the future, but like now. How long is it going to take you to get an RFI? You have to be kind of actually business-minded to get something out there, a decent idea. And
Yeah, and so some people maybe I don't know, maybe the best strategy for them right now is to just keep
take a
doing
step
what they're
back.
doing. Keep doing what they're doing if they're profitable, and just use money, use Bitcoin as like more of a savings, just to try and not pivot your whole life to just doing something just because you want to be in Bitcoin. If it's not the right time for you, it's like the general magic thing. If it's not the right time, maybe it's not the right time. Maybe you should do something else, which is a better use of your time. And then when is the best use of your time to be? Ultimately, it's just like, just do what's best for yourself.
Right,
That's what
right.
I'm trying to say, right?
Well, I think
Yeah.
too, in the BSV space, we've gotten into this earn/spend mindset, which is cool. Because we're creating an economy. You think about working and receiving pay and that sort of thing, but we also have gotten out of like this investing mindset. And so I guess the one thing that I hope people start thinking about is that, say you don't have a great idea, or a real good way to serve yourself through Bitcoin, but you believe in the overall picture and what Bitcoin achieves at scale, then maybe we should be encouraging people to invest in Bitcoin, because that's also going to help with liquidity, help the price, help bring in more people who may be better, have better ideas on how to utilize Bitcoin for themselves. And once you can utilize Bitcoin for yourselves, then you can start selling that service to other people, which inherently helps grow the economy.
Yeah, I get this question a lot. When is a good time to invest in Bitcoin? I try not to think of it that way, because from my standpoint, the question doesn't really make sense. It's not whether you're investing in Bitcoin. It's not a stock. It's not like you're investing in a company. It's more of a commodity. So it's like and that question is framed in a weird way. It's like, what does it mean to invest? It's like you have your money here, which is good, and you're just assuming the money that you have is great money, and then you're investing in Bitcoin. But that's not the case. It's like, are you storing your money in dollars? Are you storing it in euros, which just dropped below the dollars right now? Are you storing it in liras? Where are you storing that money? Are you storing it in a bank in Lebanon? Are you storing it in a bank in the US, in the UK, in Russia? Like, all of these are huge factors. It's like, yeah. So the question just frames it as, you have your money over here and you're investing this in Bitcoin. It's not that way. It's like, how are you storing your money? That's more of a better question, and it's situational for everyone. Like, people in Lebanon before the financial crisis, if there were a lot of people buying Bitcoin, and people that just have Bitcoin instead of leaving their money in the bank, they were able to hold on to their money. Even if you have your money in the bank in dollars, still can't withdraw your money. People have over millions of dollars in the bank right now. You can't withdraw more than $200 a week, and you need to go to the bank physically and wait in lines, and you're pretty much humiliated. There's people in Russia as well that were just harmed by this whole Russia-Ukraine thing. Just regular civilians have nothing to do with the government. Their businesses closed down. All these things happened. Right, we need some sort of like neutral form of money that works right everywhere as like a base layer for anything else. It doesn't mean you can't build central bank currencies on top of this technology, but you just need like a neutral, something neutral in the world. And now you have so many things happening in politics and all over the world, and it just with Bitcoin you can just cooperate with anyone anywhere in the world. And I think that's the world that I want to live in. I don't want to have to go through all of this friction to cooperate with anyone. Right now, what the internet did to communication, we should do that to money. The technology exists today. It's like the technology exists for WhatsApp, and you're still sending messages to each other over mail, like posting by physical mail. That's the reality we live in today. Why not cooperate with anyone, work with anyone globally? You could have amazing companies, amazing teams where you're not forced to, if you want to hire someone, you're not forced to find someone in your city, that kind of thing. So it just breaks down all of this friction in the global economy, and you could work with anyone anywhere in the world. And this is Craig was speaking about this his famous talk that he gave in Rwanda, when he was like, I have more money than your country, or whatever. That gets taken out of context. But he was saying like the reason why the country is really poor because they haven't opened up trade to the rest of the world, right? And he's like saying it's crazy that I have more money than the whole country. Like, it's crazy. And then he was talk about how you should open up trade, and he mentioned the same thing when he went to Colombia and stuff. Anyone can be trading with anyone in the world, and like trading is not a zero-sum game, it's a positive sum. So when people are voluntarily trading, they're both better off. It's not one person taking something from the other. They're both better off than they started before they made that trade. So it's like, imagine so many positive sum trades all over the world. You're taking it up a whole another level in the world, and then that's like you're taking human cooperation to a whole nother level globally.
I guess I'm struggling a little bit to understand here, because when you talk about like zero-sum gains and like people coming in and trading, it's like the picture that I guess that you've painted for me, in my opinion, is that people come in and trade back and forth, and the price is climbing, so everybody's winning. Because
I'm talking about trading like anything, products and services. I'm not talking about trading the Bitcoin.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
I got you. No.
Yeah. What I meant is like trade in an economical sense, right? Like it's not. If I'm trading with you, you're buying from me, let's say whatever, this pen, that's a trade, right? And
right.
if I'm selling you this pen for $1, that means I value $1 more than this pen. So I value this pen less than $1, and then you value $1 more than this pen, right? So if we make that trade, then we're both better off than we were before making that trade.
I guess
it's not there's no like exploitation there happening. It's not like a zero. It's not like if I give you this if I make this trade with you, I'm better off or you're worse off. You know what I mean? It's not like I'm taking something from you.
I totally understand that concept right there. I guess what I'm curious about is, earlier we were talking about, bringing in liquidity, and that price is something, it's an important factor. But if we are trying to bring in liquidity and, bring in price and everything else, then why wouldn't BSV be a good investment? I mean, are we so afraid in the BSV economy of doing something illegal or hurting people? Because in order for one person investing, I guess, and or trading any stock, one person has to lose in order for the other to win. Is that like why we're so like afraid to talk about investing in it, or calling it, an investment, I guess?
Because a lot of the investments nowadays are actually zero sum.
Okay.
Because like a lot of these companies, they're just trying to push the stick to the next person. I don't know if that makes sense in English, but it's like they're investing in something that doesn't they have like this information asymmetry where they know a lot more about the company, and they're just like dumping on retailers a lot of times, with like a lot of these ICOs. I think is what you're talking about, right? Is when you have like people investing in like a small project, and then afterwards they want to in companies, basically you invest like in a company in the beginning, the early stages of the company, you get equity or whatever, financial instruments, and then afterwards, in order for you to get some money and have an exit, you need to either like the company goes public, or you sell, or something happens,
But by holding
right?
Bitcoin, aren't you technically a shareholder of Bitcoin?
Yeah, let me just finish that thought. It's
Sure.
like with companies, it's different from Bitcoin, which is a commodity. With companies, in order for this exits to happen, there has to be a lot of legal a lot of legal things involved, because if that stuff is not involved, then a lot of scams can happen, right? People
Okay,
could
fair
lie,
enough.
cook the books and all that stuff, and then you can make the company look like it's performing well, and then it's actually not performing well. That's
Right.
why a lot of the unregistered securities, they make it seem like you've got this crazy project, and then you want to sell it to the next person, and in order to do that in current financial system, you need to have, in order to go public in your company, you have to have an audit of the whole company. You need to show all of the financial statements, accounting, all of that stuff, in order for people to see on the inside of the company, right?
Mm.
And if you're not doing a lot of that stuff, then you could easily be scamming. And this is what's happening with a lot of the ICO stuff. They're not doing any of that stuff, and they're just dumping on random retailers, because anyone can buy these ICO like tokens, and they don't have any other information. But with Bitcoin, it's different. Bitcoin is not a company. It's like you're buying a commodity like gold or silver or something, or oil or something like that.
So I guess the whole premise here is that we continue with this earn slash spend mentality, where the businesses within that we're creating an economy with like a new currency. You have to get the currency, and then once you have the currency, you can spend it on things that make your life, more beneficial, whether it's entertainment or goods or services or whatever. But I guess the liquidity coming in, and I guess getting the price to go up is just an added benefit. Like, okay, this is like what other countries experience with their currency inflating or deflating and changing price every single day. Like what you said, they have to have an app that actually tracks that differentiating factor of how much they need to charge today versus how much they charged yesterday for the same plate of food. Is that more or less?
Uh, Karen, I just wanted to comment on one thing you said. It's like the liquidity thing is for people to come in, and it's more, it's kind of like the analogy that Jack gave one day. He was talking about it's like you need to make it more attractive. If you think of Bitcoin as like a country, you need to make it more attractive for people to do things in your country. It's not enough to make it easy to go to the country. You need to make it attractive for people to want to go there, right? and
Okay.
and do things there. So like the bridge just makes it easier. It's not like that's not the ultimate goal. The
It's
ultimate goal is more of something like Daniel Kraywitz, like Bitcoiners helping Bitcoiners. It's like you need to be providing goods and services to people in your economy right now. That's like the ceiling thing I mentioned in the beginning. It's like you need to be able to make a profit from the people in the existing economy right now, right? And if you make the liquidity and stuff, that'll make it easier for people to join. But that's like the next step. It's not the first step. The first step is actually having a better, economy that we have in Bitcoin.
I'm starting to see it all come together in a positive sense. Like I said, I'm still super excited about everything. I'm still super I guess bullish on Bitcoin at scale, and everything that you guys are working on at the Bitcoin Association. I get what you're saying. I'm starting to see it. It's gonna take a second, and I'm sure as soon as we end the call, I'm gonna be like, oh man, I should have asked him XYZ, because I'm gonna be thinking about this for a while today. But I do appreciate you coming on and sharing your wealth of knowledge and insight with me, as I've thoroughly enjoyed the conversation that you and I have shared today. But I guess I know we've run a little bit over here. Any final statements before we wrap it up?
Thanks. Yeah, me too. It's fun just to, just bounce off ideas. Obviously, everyone's still figuring everything out. So Bitcoin is still like pretty much it's like multi-dimensional. There's so many things, and Craig is very much inspired me to study law, which I think is extremely important. And I think that's like one huge aspect that a lot of people really neglect. And once you see things from a legal lens, things make a lot more sense straight away. And it's there's a huge difference. I think a lot of the crypto anarchists just completely brush away all this stuff, but there's a huge difference between lawlessness and anarchy. Even a lot of the anarchist figures right now, they I don't think anyone wants to live in a lawless world, right? There's a difference between like government law and private law, like common law. And I think it's extremely foolish to just throw the baby with the bathwater with a lot of the stuff. And law goes back centuries and so long ago, and it's it builds on itself. And I think if you understand things from a legal point of view, the whole world, not just Bitcoin, but like the whole world makes a lot more sense. And then I think that's what I wanted to.
It's perfect.
I forgot where I was going with that thought, but I could just leave it there.
It sounds good to me, Jad. And like I said, I really appreciate you coming on the show. But with that being said, guys, I really hope you guys also enjoyed the conversation that we had today. If you did, make sure to hit the like and subscribe button, and check out Bitcoin 101 at coingeek.com. But with that being said, guys, that is going to wrap it up for today. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bitcoin mining, Bitcoin wallet, blockchain, stablecoins, metanet, the evolution of money. Everybody is talking about Bitcoin today, but what exactly is it? Learn the basics from experts. Learn what Bitcoin is, how it works, and why it matters. Bitcoin 101, your ultimate guide to the fundamentals of blockchain.
Thank you for watching. Please make sure to like the video, subscribe to our channel, and leave a comment below. Share this video with a friend, and also follow us on Twitter at BritneyBits.